Many wise people over the years have told us that one of the major secrets to life, one of the biggest hacks for living a good life, is moderation. Moderation is one of the great secrets. Cooks know that. You have to have the perfect amount of salt in the recipe. If you don't have enough salt in the soup, it's bland. Does anybody want another bowl? No one raises their hand. But if you add too much salt, the whole pot is unappetizing. The same thing is true in lots of things in life. For example, in people's confidence levels. People who lack self-confidence lack some of the zest of life. There's a sadness when you see someone who struggles with self-confidence. But those who have too much confidence, those who are inflated, that doesn't feel like a nice interaction when you're spending time with them. Moderation is needed. And that's one of the takeaways from the gospel today when Jesus says, be careful when you walk into a room and you assume that the number one seat of honor is for you. He said it's probably not. There's probably someone who belongs in that seat ahead of you. And that's always a sign, he says, that you might be over-salting your soup if you assume that you should be in the top seat. He said that's almost never true. And even if it is true, let yourself get invited there. Don't head for it. Let someone tell you, no, this is for you. I realize that this dynamic sometimes comes up when I give into a bad habit of mine. Occasionally, I will allow myself to fantasize about my own funeral and how sad it's gonna be. Where are they gonna hold it? Just imagine all the sad people and all the people in the back who weren't invited because they hurt me at one point, but they're the saddest of all. Their faces in their hands. How could we not have appreciated him more when he was here, they'll say. And I realize when I let myself go down that road, it's actually a sign that I'm lacking confidence because I'm trying to inflate myself a bit. There's something missing. That's a sign that I'm propping myself up. So whenever that happens, there's usually a sign that I need to add a little more salt to the soup. Or better yet, get the right perspective on what is most important. This is the thing that we're forgetting when we add too much salt or not enough salt to the soup. We're forgetting that my dignity and your dignity is infinite. It's infinite. It's limitless. Our dignity comes to us from the fact that we were made by God. That is what happens when we forget I have this tremendous dignity. I start thinking I need to fantasize about my funeral, or I need to start propping myself up. I once saw a meme that made me laugh. It said, "Don't get too proud." And then beneath it said, "The size of your funeral will depend largely on the weather that day." Isn't that true? Oh, I don't think I'm gonna go. Maybe I'll go to the wake. Oh, snowstorm. I'll send them a card. Right? Do you know that I had 20 people in my last parish during the height of the pandemic? I did 20 funerals for those who had COVID. It was one of the hardest things about being a priest during that time. And I had a number of other funerals for people who died of other illnesses. And do you know what their funerals were like? There were 6 people at them, including me. Do you remember that? Some of the people that died were pillars in the community. One man who owned a local breakfast shop that was just everybody's favorite place to go. He was like the mayor of the town. 6 people at his funeral. During normal times, that would never have been true. But do you know what else I learned about being at those funerals with just 5 other people? I learned that it didn't take away any of their dignity, even a smidgen. Because the way our funeral goes does not determine our dignity. Our dignity, our value is infinite. And the reason it is because the maker of all things reached into the bucket of unformed clay and made us, chose to make us, and chose to make each one of us. If God didn't want us here, we could have remained in the bucket of unformed clay. So for us to even be here is to have won the lottery. We won the cosmic lottery to be here. We have infinite worth. And when we remember that, we salt the soup perfectly. We don't need to prop ourselves up, and we realize we can't be diminished at all. I once was sitting at a light, and there was a car in front of me with a bumper sticker that said, "Remember, only 1/7 billionth of this is about you." What an aha that is. We're infinitely valuable, but let's not get crazy. Only 1/7 billionth of what's going to go on in the world today is about us. It's okay to be put in our proper perspective. We don't need to feel sad because we're not the most important person in the room. Because by being here, we've won the lottery. Our dignity can't be diminished in any way. One of the great things about life is you can use opportunities that feel humiliating as a reminder of the value of humility. There are things that happen all the time that make us cringe. And a good thing for us to do is not to waste them. Let's use them to remember the value of humility. After all, nothing that happens to us can threaten us. We're infinitely valuable before God. One time, a couple of years ago, I was going from a wake on a Saturday morning to an event where I was going to speak with the mayor of the town I was serving in, where my parish was. And then I had the vigil mass after that. So it was kind of a busy day. And I decided to do a little errand in between the wake and the speaking engagement. And I stopped at a Price Chopper. And I never should have. Because the self-checkout was a disaster that day. It was malfunctioning. And so I went there and I couldn't check out. And there was no reason why I couldn't. So I went to the employee who couldn't help me. And then she got the manager, and the manager came. And the manager couldn't help me. And they were very unapologetic, like, just move to that one. Meanwhile, time is ticking. And then I start to get into my unhealthy talk where I think, I'm going to speak with the mayor now. You people need to help me. Let's go. Well, you can imagine it took forever and we were all at a loss. Well, anyway, eventually they got me through. But in the middle of helping me, the manager said, "Where's my phone? Where's my phone? Somebody took my phone." And I thought, isn't that just the way that in the chaos of this, somebody took advantage of us being distracted and stole someone's phone? What kind of a world we live in? So it was kind of a bummer. But I finished my purchase. I told her, "Thank you for your help," even though she wasn't that gracious. And I said, "I hope that you find your phone. I'll pray for you." And she said, "Thank you. I don't know who would have taken it. This is awful." I went out to my car and I looked at my watch. I was so late. I got going. I put my phone in the holder and there's a strange guy's face on the screensaver. I stole her phone. So I guess I'm not as fancy and important and put together as I thought I was that day. Do you see? Life gives us all sorts of things like that. You're speaking with the mayor one minute and you're stealing someone's phone the next. That's life. That's life. And so this week, we're being invited. Can we start to see ourselves more the way God sees us? Because God knows who we are. We're infinitely loved and a hot mess at the same time. That's who we are. That's what it is to be human. And so how beautiful for us to just put ourselves right there in that. Neither one of those things invalidates the other. If we start thinking that because we're a mess, we're worthless, well, then the soup's going to have no flavor. And if we start thinking that because we're infinitely loved, maybe we're more loved than somebody else, we're on the wrong track completely. Because being here, right now, means we already won the lottery. But only 1/7 billionth of this is about us.